Should be up and running here. Should be live. All right. So we've been closed now for about a minute. All right. And pretty big moves here in the market. So we'll recap those, talk about what to expect going into next week. Let's get started. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for May 20th, 2022. Qs down 0.3. SPY is basically flat here. Okay, and then IWM more or less flat as well. All right, Qs and SPY were down most of the day. Had a power trend actually for most of the morning, and then just in this last hour, retraced half of the move back up. Market was also gapping up initially and got sold. So a lot of back and forth today. And as we were kind of finishing up here, I think the important thing was, where does that set us up for next week? Okay, because we were bearish coming into today. Okay, we were bearish going into yesterday. Where does now the move that we've had and the reaction that we got set us up for next week? Now, going through the charts here, the daily's still in a downtrend. Yes, it's a decently sized bottoming tail. Weekly still multiple bars down. Monthly is broken now. And the hourly is in a downtrend. So even though this is a pretty big green bar that we have here, okay, we still have a downtrend going on across the board. So what does that mean? That means we have to look at where price would have to get to for us to no longer be in a downtrend here on the hourly. And so for me, it's above this base. Okay, over 294.50, over that area on the Qs. All right, no longer bearish. Otherwise, going into Monday, we're setting up an hourly sell into the declining 20. Okay, so that's really what we're going to be watching for going into next week here, is how does this hourly sell setup form, or is this an igniting move that again tries to threaten this hourly, right? Now you can see on this move down, we've seen this happen a bit here. We saw it happen, try to reverse the trend there. We most recently saw it try to reverse the trend here. As you recall, we went neutral, and then once we broke back down, we went back to bearish, and that led us in this most recent leg down. So, and that's why anytime we get these breaks, like here, all these other ones highlighted, what's the reason that we're not being bullish even though we're above the 20 MA? And that's because the daily remains in a downtrend. Okay, so we go with typically the larger time frame in these situations. So if the larger time frame's in a downtrend and the smaller time frame tries to transition, we do expect that the trend will continue, so the transition will be short-lived. Okay, so a little bit of a bounce here, pretty decent sized green bar here, so that's what we're going to be watching for going into Monday. Do we set up a sell setup, and then does the sell setup follow through? Okay, all right, let's go over the plays from today. Really nice find from James on the ENDP. So this was a pretty nice scalp here. Started at 54 cents. Pretty tight stop there on that breakdown. Did get back a little jumpy there initially, but eventually followed through and had a nice kind of trend going on there. So a very tight stop and pretty good follow through. VLD, I initially missed and was a little upset that I missed it, just because it was one of the nicer things that we'd seen in a bit. So yeah, they're under 45 as was breaking there, and kind of just missed that break there, and then watched it as it had a nice follow through to that breakdown. But fortunately, kind of kept an eye on it, had this nice rally, and then set up on the level 2 again here. Okay, so that was the initial sell setup, and then was able to add to it right here. Okay, and so that was good. And then one more time right here was okay too. Okay, again another little sell setup on the VLD. So was able to kind of make up for it. Would have been nice, of course, to have played everything after that initial breakdown, but basing at the lows. Here's the daily here, so you can see really weak on the daily as well. And that's what I want to see, right? Really weak daily, really weak intraday, good time frame alignment, and then in a weak market as well. Okay, all of those kind of working together. So that was good. And of course the ENDP, which we also played a couple days ago as well. Very weak. But I also wanted to go over one here that, I thought today was fine. I thought today was pretty tough. ENDP was nice. VLD was okay. But I also want to go over one here that actually kind of, once I played this and it flipped, kind of took it easy after that because I didn't want to mess up the day. And this kind of already got me kind of good. So I just wanted to go over this and just talk about, why I was so aggressive with it. And something just to be careful about going into next week, and especially if you're scalping heavily. So something that I really liked about this was the daily, right? Breaking down here looks great, looks lower on every time frame, breaking to new lows, no support below. So I was pretty excited for this one. Okay, pretty excited. So found it a little bit late. I didn't get it till 110 here. And you can see it's basing. Now, here's your first kind of clue, noticing the dots and spots there. So it's a little bit thin. So I think today probably closed around 1 million shares. Yeah, but probably at the time I played it was probably in the 800,000 shares. So anything like this low price, you really want to be careful of because, so it was looking great. And I even added to it a couple times, added to it on the way down. As it was going, because I liked the daily a lot. The intraday was looking great, and then when it flipped, actually filled me all of the shares that I got out at 110. So break even on this portion, right? But the 2 times that I added to it, those all lost money. So this ended up being my worst scalp of the week. This FRAQ, even though initially it was okay. Now the only reason that happened is because it's a little bit thin. So when it popped over 108, it just jumped up, to 110 by 111. So, so that's something, when you see a chart like this, and you see it, you're noticing some spots and dots here, double check the intraday, and you just don't want to go too heavy, because when you go too heavy, too many shares and you can't control risk, right? It can be a problem. Right now, this kind of thing, you can survive these. It's not a big deal, right? But of course, I didn't like it. Kind of, threw a wrench into my day, and so nearly kind of messed up the day. So, so just want to kind of put that reminder out there because stuff like this will happen. And like I said, this was my worst play of the week actually. So. So yeah, I just gotta be careful. And I do feel like, it wasn't a bad play. I think it's justified. It was worth a try. I definitely don't think it was a mistake in playing it, just mistake in the level of aggressiveness. That's all. Okay. All right. But hopefully you had a nice week. I don't think it was kind of the easiest of weeks. I thought you really had to grind it out. You really had to be patient yet and persistent. So we'll see kind of what next week brings. The focus really, as of late, has been the scalps, but if you're scalping in the room, it does take a lot of kind of like focus and scanning, and so make sure you get lots of rest this weekend and get ready for another week next week. All right, that's gonna do it for today's market wrap. I will talk to you guys on Monday. Have a good weekend.